Shocking video was released earlier today on the controversial news website, thedailybugle.net.
There you have it, folks.
Greetings, Sentinels. This is Universe Unique, and today the truth comes to light. Tom Holland is the only Spider-Man to ever receive a fourth solo film. That has never happened before. Not with Tobey Maguire, not with Andrew Garfield. And the question dividing fans is, why him? What did Marvel and Sony see in Holland's Peter Parker that the others didn't deliver? Before diving into that answer, let me ask you something important. This channel is about to reach a huge milestone, and every subscription right now makes a real difference. If you enjoy deep analysis, theories with solid foundations, and details no one else points out, then subscribe and join this community. Here, you don't just follow the hype. You actually understand what's really happening behind Marvel and DC's decisions. Because the truth is, the choice to give Holland a fourth film wasn't only creative, it was strategic. And what's hidden in this move could change everything we know about the future of the MCU. But there's one detail in this reset of the character that almost no one has noticed. And I'm about to get there. Now tell me, from which city and country are you watching this video? I want to see where the Sentinels forming this nerd army of mine are coming from. I read every single comment, and I want to know you. And if this content is connecting you with the hottest news and theories from the Geek Universe. Drop the triple kill. Like, comment, and share. Tom Holland did not enter the MCU like the other Spider-Men. Tobey Maguire was designed to carry a self-contained trilogy, shouldering the entire narrative on his own. Andrew Garfield was shaped into a darker, more ironic Peter, set up for a long-term saga that was ultimately sabotaged by corporate decisions. Holland, on the other hand, was conceived from the start to be flexible, a hero who could fit seamlessly into Marvel's larger universe, able to interact with Tony Stark, Natasha Romanoff, and even face alien titans without feeling out of place. His debut in Captain America, Civil War skipped the classic Uncle Ben speech and the repeated spider bite origin. He arrived in the middle of the action, introduced by Tony Stark himself. That detail gave the character immediate weight. He was no longer just the kid discovering his powers on his own, but a young hero who needed to prove he was worthy of standing alongside the Avengers. It was a bold narrative leap. Instead of repeating the formula, Marvel threw him straight into the big game, as if to say, this is the definitive Spider-Man for this generation. What sets Holland apart is that he grew on screen at the same time he grew with the audience. In the comics, Spider-Man has always embodied one essential trait, being the bridge between the human and the superhuman. Holland captures this rawly. He begins dependent on Stark's technology, criticized as Iron Boy Jr. But by No Way Home, he loses everything: May, MJ, Ned, his recognition, his resources, and is left with nothing but a handmade suit, no allies, no fame, no safety net. Marvel rebuilt his path so that he finally became the classic Spider-Man from the comics, solitary and resilient. This shift isn't just aesthetic, it's narrative. The red and blue suit shown in the final frame of No Way Home is more than a design detail. Just like in the comics, the costume signals a new chapter. He is no longer simply the Avengers apprentice. He is once again the anonymous hero of New York, facing street-level struggles but carrying the baggage of having fought cosmic wars. That duality makes Holland the most complete version of the character to date. And here's the point few admit: Tobey began already mature, Andrew already marked by grief. But Tom is the only one we've been able to follow from adolescence into adulthood, forged by loss. Marvel didn't end his arc, they reset it. That's something neither Tobey nor Andrew ever had. The crucial reason why Tom Holland was given a fourth film lies in the contrast between closure and restart. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's arcs were concluded definitively in No Way Home. That reunion wasn't just fanservice, it was a carefully crafted farewell. With Tobey, we saw an older Peter, carrying the weight of time but still capable of guiding. The moment he stops Holland from killing Norman Osborn is symbolic, the older version passing on the burden of responsibility to the younger. Even the joke about his back pain wasn't random. It was a nod to the years passed off-screen and a quiet farewell for a Spider-Man who had already completed his cycle. Andrew Garfield was given perhaps the film's most emotional scene, saving MJ. When he catches her and breaks down in tears, it wasn't just the character. It was the actor experiencing the redemption denied to him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That catharsis closed old wounds. It was Marvel's way of granting peace to a Peter who never had the chance to finish his trilogy. Holland's ending in the same film, however, was completely different. He didn't find peace. He was left in isolation. He lost May, MJ, Ned, and even the memory of his existence was erased. Instead of concluding his arc, Marvel wiped the slate clean. That final frame, with Peter in a small apartment sewing his own suit, was practically a return to the roots of the 1960s comics, when he struggled to pay rent and fought street-level criminals before being pulled into the epic. That choice changes everything, because No Way Home wasn't a conclusion. It was a narrative reset. While Tobey and Andrew were given spiritual finales, Tom was handed a blank page. Marvel is, in practice, opening space to show the classic Spider-Man we never had in the MCU. No Stark, no vibranium shields, no holograms. Just Peter Parker and the city he's trying to protect. This reveals the strategy behind the fourth film. It's not about artificially extending a trilogy. It's about starting another one from scratch, with a hero who has already endured tragedies worthy of Greek drama, and must now survive in the most human scenario possible. Alone against the world. To understand why Tom Holland is the only one with a fourth film, you have to look beyond the screen. The issue isn't just creative, it's corporate. Since the 1990s, when Marvel faced bankruptcy, Spider-Man's rights were sold to Sony. That allowed for Sam Raimi's trilogy, and years later, Andrew Garfield's films. But at the same time, the deal trapped each version under one guiding principle: urgency for box office returns. Tobey Maguire's case is clear. Sam Raimi was developing Spider-Man 4, with villains like Vulture and Black Cat. Drafts were written, casting rumors circulated. Even Anne Hathaway's name was floated. But Sony wanted speed over care. Raimi, always obsessed with narrative quality, walked away. The studio scrapped the trilogy and immediately announced a reboot in 2010. Tobey didn't lose the role due to age or creative missteps, but because the studio ran out of patience. Andrew Garfield's case was even harsher. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was designed more as a springboard to Sinister Six than as a complete film. Stuffed with artificial setups, Oscorp mysteries, and forced plots, the result was a story that couldn't stand on its own. Critics tore it apart, box office fell short, and Sony once again killed its own project. Andrew, who loved the role and openly admitted having his heart broken, was cast aside. This pattern of rushed decisions sank both previous generations. It was only with Kevin Feige's intervention that the equation changed. The deal between Marvel Studios and Sony created a unique arrangement. Marvel would oversee the creative side, while Sony would continue profiting from the films and merchandise. In practice, Sony turned Marvel's most iconic hero into its golden goose, without having to worry about story quality. The numbers explain why Holland couldn't stop at a trilogy. Far From Home became the first Spider-Man film to cross the $1 billion mark. No Way Home nearly doubled that, approaching $2 billion while dominating merchandise sales. For Sony, walking away was unthinkable. For Marvel, it was a chance to keep alive their strongest link to younger audiences. That marriage of interests is what keeps Holland at the forefront. Unlike Tobey and Andrew, he isn't tied to a studio acting alone. He's the product of a partnership where both sides have too much at stake. That's why Marvel and Sony not only want, but need, his story to continue. Tobey Maguire's journey as Spider-Man could have gone further. Sam Raimi was already working on Spider-Man 4, with villains like Vulture and Black Cat planned. The script was in development, and casting discussions had begun. But Sony didn't want to wait. The studio demanded a fast blockbuster, even at the expense of narrative consistency. Raimi, who always valued quality over speed, left the project. The result was the abrupt end of one of the most iconic superhero trilogies ever. and a reboot announced the very same year. Tobey didn't step away because of age or fatigue. The studio's impatience ended his run. Andrew Garfield faced an even more painful frustration. Unlike Tobey, he never finished his trilogy. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't planned as a standalone story, but as a launchpad for a forced shared universe. Sinister Six, Oscorp secrets, countless clumsy setups. All of it diluted what could have been a coherent narrative. Audiences felt the lack of heart, and critics didn't hold back. Andrew admitted in interviews that it broke his heart. He had been a lifelong fan of the hero and believed he was bringing an authentic Peter Parker to life. The mistake was turning the character into a showcase for a future that never came. While Raimi wanted to build a worthy conclusion for Tobey, Sony saw Andrew as just a cog in a larger machine. The outcome was inevitable: underperforming box office, negative reviews, and the sense that Spider-Man had lost his essence. A reboot was announced soon after, this time handing creative control to Marvel Studios. It's within this contrast that Tom Holland stands out. Marvel allowed his version the breathing room to grow, without the pressure of carrying an entire universe alone. Tobey and Andrew embodied whole eras, but their stories were cut short by business decisions that disrespected narrative timing. Holland, thanks to an unprecedented partnership, gained something the others never had: the chance to keep evolving, both on and off screen. Tom Holland's fourth film isn't just a continuation. It's a central piece on the chessboard Marvel and Sony are putting together. Holland is the only Spider-Man capable of moving between two worlds that rarely connect. He can operate on the street level, facing villains like Kingpin, Tombstone, or even the Punisher, and at the same time be prepared for cosmic battles alongside the Avengers against threats like Doctor Doom or Kang. That kind of range didn't exist in the earlier versions. Tobey Maguire never left New York. Andrew Garfield never shared the screen with other heroes. But Tom Holland has already bled on Titan, stood against Thanos, and then returned home, carrying the backpack of an ordinary high school kid. That versatility is strategic. Marvel is in a fragile position. It needs to build smaller, more personal stories to keep the audience emotionally engaged, while also laying the groundwork for massive crossover events like Secret Wars. Holland is the perfect bridge because he can be small and human in one film and the anchor of a multiversal war in the next. That's exactly what the comics always did with Spider-Man. In one issue, Peter Parker is late on his rent. In another, he's saving the planet from Galactus. Another factor that strengthens his position is cultural weight. Every generation has its Spider-Man. Tobey belongs to the audience that grew up in the early 2000s. Andrew is remembered for a darker, unfinished phase, but Holland has been absorbed by the generation that lives online, spreading memes, short videos, and consuming pop culture at a global scale. He isn't just a hero on the big screen, he's a cultural reference point who fits seamlessly into the rhythm of Generation Z itself. And there's something even more decisive. Holland has gained influence inside the creative process. He's already stated publicly that he wouldn't make new films just out of obligation. The deal for his fourth film includes a larger role in script decisions, meaning he's no longer just the actor in the suit. He's actively shaping the direction of the character. That's unprecedented, and it shows Marvel doesn't just want a leading man, they want a lasting symbol. For that reason, Tom Holland's role goes far beyond being the first Spider-Man to have 4 films. He's being positioned as the emotional center of the MCU's next era, the bridge between what has passed and what's coming. The hero who can still fall off a rooftop in Queens and, in the same universe, face the collapse of the multiverse. That combination makes his continuation not only logical, but inevitable. When we look at Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in No Way Home, we see tributes that functioned as farewells. Tobey closed his journey as a mentor, carrying the wisdom of years we never saw on screen. Andrew was given the chance for redemption, saving a life that symbolically healed his greatest failure. Those moments weren't setups for new films. They were emotional finales, carefully designed as closure. Tom Holland's ending, however, was completely different. His Peter Parker was stripped of everything. No May, no Stark, no friends, no public recognition. What looked like the conclusion of a trilogy was, in reality, the rebirth of the hero's essence. The final frame, with him sewing his own suit in a small apartment, directly echoes the classic comics. It's Spider-Man at his roots, facing overdue bills, street-level villains, and his own solitude. And yet, at the same time, he carries the experience of surviving cosmic wars and multiversal chaos. That's exactly what makes him irreplaceable. Holland isn't just the next chapter of a profitable franchise. He's the balancing point between two sides of the MCU. The grounded streets of New York and the multiversal storm building towards secret wars. Marvel is using this reset not simply to give him a new trilogy, but to position him as the emotional axis of the cinematic universe's future. In other words, Tom Holland didn't just get a fourth film. He inherited the responsibility of being the anchor of an entire era. Now I want to hear from you. Should Tobey and Andrew each get new solo films, or did No Way Home already deliver the perfect farewell for them? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell me which city and country you're watching from. I always read every comment, and I want to know the Sentinels following this journey. If this content connects you with deep analysis, well-founded theories, and details no one else highlights, subscribe to the channel. We're about to hit a major milestone, and your support is what keeps this project alive. By subscribing, you make sure you'll never miss the sharpest discussions in the Geek Universe. And you'll help strengthen this community. That was another dive into the heart of the MCU. Now it's your turn. Comment, share, and come back for the next chapters, because there's still a lot of truth waiting to be revealed.